Our story begins in Mexico with Brian as he wakes up from his sleep. Brian is an engineer who lives all by himself. While he was preparing breakfast, he looked at a photograph of his wife, who vanished during mysterious and unknown events. After that, he went out of his house for a run to improve his physical fitness. And here, we learn that Brian is a master of the martial art of Kyokushin, but he retired to work as an engineer. Furthermore, a young man named Oscar, his neighbor, is always spying on him from a distance, trying to learn the secrets of martial arts from him. But in the end, Brian ignored him and went to his job because he is an important engineer and everyone depends on him. Meanwhile, Oscar headed to his high school to attend his classes because he is in his senior year and wants to pass and go to college. But as he is leaving the school, we notice a gang of criminals watching and surrounding him. However, Oscar tricked them and ran at his absolute maximum speed. Here, we discover that Brian was having lunch at a nearby restaurant and saw Oscar escaping from the gang, which made him deeply furious. At this time, Oscar went to borrow money from his grandmother to buy food for his little siblings because his father and mother had passed away. At night, the gang members stormed into Oscar's house. Their leader looked at him and said, "You disrespected us. And if your older brother wasn't one of our gang members, I would have ended you right here." Oscar was forced to apologize for his actions against his will, and he handed over the money he took from his grandmother. The next morning, Oscar kept watching Brian from a distance. But this time, Brian suddenly surprised him and called him over to train under his wing. Brian did this because he saw the gang chasing Oscar before, and he decided to teach him the secrets of Kyokushin martial arts for self-defense. Right from the very first training sessions, Oscar's insane talent begins to show because he was learning all the combat styles at a terrifying speed. He transformed into a devastating, merciless fighter who could shatter the bones of anyone standing in his way. After a short period, Oscar's self-confidence increased, and he was no longer afraid of the gang members like before. Meanwhile, Brian was honored by his colleagues at work for being a brilliant engineer. Later, he decided to guide Oscar because he wanted him to join the College of Engineering after finishing high school. One day, Brian was training Oscar on improving his reflexes to block enemy attacks. Even though Oscar got hurt during the session, he kept going because he has an unstoppable will. During the break, Oscar accidentally saw the picture of Brian's wife, but he quickly put it back down the moment Brian walked into the house, choosing not to ask him about her. After that, Oscar mentioned that he wanted to participate in a martial arts tournament, but Brian firmly replied that Kyokushin is a lethal combat art, and it should only be used for self-defense, nothing more. Right then, the gang showed up again, but this time Hector was with them. Hector is Oscar's older brother. The moment he saw him training with Brian, he told his brother to stay away from him because Brian might be an undercover cop. Oscar apologized to Brian for his brother's words, and Brian warned him to take care of himself. The next day, Oscar went to a martial arts club to sign up for training. However, Marisol, the daughter of the club owner, told him that he is only 17 years old and must have a legal guardian with him to register, which made him deeply sad. That night, Oscar told his brother Hector that he wanted to keep training with Brian since he couldn't join the club, but Hector refused and said, "You are staying with me in the gang." After that, Oscar and his brother went to an illegal underground fighting ring. There, Hector started betting against his friend in the gang and lost, because there was a monstrously strong fighter in the ring that nobody could stop. Suddenly, without any warning, Oscar entered the ring and walked up to the referee to challenge him. Of course, everyone was shocked because Oscar is just a young, weak-looking kid. But right from the start of the battle, Oscar used the secret Kyokushin defensive technique he learned from Brian. He easily controlled his opponent, waited for the perfect window, and knocked him unconscious with a strike faster than lightning. Hector felt immense joy because his little brother won and helped him win all the bets against his friends. After that, we meet the millionaire, Piero. Piero was playing golf with his friends when one of his henchmen sent him a video of Oscar fighting. He was completely blown away by Oscar's unbelievable skills and decided he had to reach him at any cost. For that, he went to one of the most dangerous prisons in the world, where he met Kelvin. Kelvin is a notorious and dangerous criminal, and when he saw the video of Oscar fighting, he said that Brian was definitely the one who trained him, because Brian is the only person alive who knows this secret combat style. Kelvin then ordered Piero to send his men to eliminate Brian immediately because of an ancient blood feud between them, which was the reason Kelvin was sent to prison in the first place. The next morning, Oscar and his brother Hector went to meet Brian. In the beginning, Hector asked Brian to train his brother for professional tournaments to make a lot of money, but Brian strictly refused, saying that Kyokushin is only for self-defense. This made Oscar deeply upset. In the middle of the conversation between Brian and Oscar, Hector walked over to Brian's car and tried to steal it. Brian told him to back off, but Hector pulled out a gun and threatened him, saying, "You might be a strong fighter, but you can't protect yourself from bullets." Here, Brian pretended to be weak, but suddenly pulled out a terrifying weapon of his own to defend himself against Hector. He forced Hector to surrender and order his men to get away from his house, warning them that if they ever returned, he would finish them off. He also told Oscar to stop training with him because he and his brother were causing too much trouble. The moment Oscar and the gang left, Brian felt deeply furious because his only student was going to participate in illegal tournaments and might use the secrets he learned for evil. After Brian refused to train Oscar, Hector took his brother to sign up at a martial arts club. While signing the papers, two mysterious identical twin men entered the gym and asked Oscar about Brian's location. Oscar sensed they were evil and lied, saying he didn't know where Brian was. Hector noticed they were heavily armed and whispered that they might be professional assassins. The coach, Marisol's father, told everyone to stay away from trouble so he wouldn't kick them out of the club. Oscar then asked Marisol to come with him because Brian wouldn't talk to him or his brother. Marisol agreed, and once Hector drove her there, she apologized for Oscar's actions and begged Brian to talk to him. Brian finally agreed to her request. He learned from Oscar that two twins were hunting for him, which shocked him deeply. He instantly ordered Hector, Oscar, and Marisol to hide inside his house as fast as possible. But it was in vain. Out of nowhere, a hidden sniper opened fire, instantly killing Hector's henchmen before they could even run. Fortunately, Brian managed to pull Oscar, Marisol, and Hector safely inside his house. Inside, everyone was completely shocked and demanded to know exactly what was happening. Brian revealed that he used to be a special agent years ago, and he was the one who captured the dangerous criminal named Kelvin. He explained that he had hidden in Mexico to escape the danger, but now that Kelvin found his location, he sent his assassins to kill him. Brian then ordered the teenagers to stay put inside while he went out to eliminate the twins. Right from the start of the battle, Brian used a silent iron arrow to fight because it doesn't make a loud noise like pistols. He successfully executed the first twin. Then, he confronted the last remaining twin and demanded to know who sent him. The assassin was fast and engaged Brian in a brutal fight. Brian used Kyokushin combat, while his opponent used boxing, but Brian won in the end because he knew all of his enemy's weaknesses. Brian then threatened him with gasoline, asking for Kelvin's location. But the stubborn twin cursed Brian and set himself on fire because he refused to reveal any secrets. In the end, Brian apologized to Hector, Oscar, and Marisol for what happened and told them he must leave the city so no one else gets hurt by the hitmen hunting him down. He led the youth out through a secret underground tunnel to keep them safe. As they walked into the tunnel, Brian began sharing his dark past. He revealed that after he arrested Kelvin, Kelvin's men kidnapped his wife and brutally tortured her. Brian had to risk his life using his martial arts skills to rescue her, but he was forced to flee America and disappear completely from her sight, because if he stayed with her, she would be kidnapped or harmed again. After Brian finished the story and reached the end of the tunnel, he handed Hector his pistol, ordering him to protect his brother and Marisol. He said a sad goodbye to Oscar, commanding him to keep training in martial arts because he is a highly talented young man. That night, a fleet of police cars arrived at Brian's house and began calling out his name. But Brian is a genius. Looking at his security cameras, he discovered they were actually criminals working for Kelvin, disguised as police officers. Using his tactical wit, he ambushed them. The criminals were shocked by Brian's extreme speed and intellect. They had no idea that because he is a brilliant engineer, he had rigged his garden sprinklers with deadly acid, creating brutal traps for his enemies. Within minutes of intense fighting, Brian finished off all the criminals easily. However, he left two alive, telling them to deliver a message to Kelvin. "I am coming back to take my revenge." Meanwhile, Kelvin was exploding with rage. He ordered Piero's assistant that they must eliminate Brian at any cost because he knows all their secrets and could bring their downfall. During this time, Hector dropped Oscar and Marisol safely in the city, telling Oscar to keep training because he is now a powerful fighter who will join professional rings soon. Hector then went back to his gang's hideout. The moment he arrived, he was shocked to find out he was betrayed. He was ambushed by a criminal working for Kelvin, who demanded to know Brian's location. But Hector cursed him and refused to speak because Brian had protected him and his brother Oscar. The criminal took him hostage and threatened to kill him, but Hector stood his ground despite facing brutal torture. Out of nowhere, Brian appeared and shot one of the criminals dead. The leader immediately grabbed Hector as a human shield, demanding Brian to surrender or else he would execute him. Brian used his extraordinary marksmanship skills and perfectly sniped the leader threatening Hector. He then ran out of bullets, forcing them to escape as the remaining gang members drew swords and chased them. Brian sprinted at full speed. The criminals thought he was terrified, but in reality, he was luring them to the top of a mountain. Once there, he separated them and eliminated them one by one. He then returned to Hector, untied his ropes, handed him his gun, and told him to come along to clear the gang out of the city. At the same time, Oscar and Marisol went back to Brian's house to check on him. Oscar was suddenly ambushed by fighters wearing combat armor, forcing him to defend himself. A masked fighter heavily attacked him, using the exact same secret style that Brian had invented. Over time, Oscar managed to gain control until his opponent surrendered. The masked man revealed his name was Eric and explained that he was one of Brian's former students, which is why he knew the secret style. Oscar believed him and stopped the attack. Eric asked about Brian's location, but Oscar was smart and refused to answer, suspecting he might be a lying enemy. Eric said he would drive them back to the city, but halfway through, Oscar noticed they were driving deep into the desert. Eric admitted he changed his mind and was taking them to his secret hideout to ask some questions. Oscar realized he fell into a terrible trap. He secretly called his brother Hector, who happened to be riding in the car right next to Brian. When Brian heard what was happening over the phone, he revealed that Eric was his former student who betrayed him and joined Kelvin's syndicate. Brian tracked Oscar's location via GPS and accelerated with Hector to rescue them. Suddenly, Eric noticed Oscar was on the phone, grabbed it, and threw it out the window. When Hector realized they lost the signal, he became deeply enraged and worried for his little brother. Brian calmed him down, telling him not to panic and to stay focused. Oscar came up with a clever plan. He faked an illness and pretended to pass out so the criminals would take him out of the car for fresh air. While doing so, he memorized the building number next to him without Eric noticing. Eric then took Oscar and Marisol inside a luxury mansion, threatening Oscar that if he tried to escape, he would completely eliminate Marisol. Oscar was forced to obey and went to meet Valdez. Valdez is a highly dangerous cartel boss who was sitting with Piero, Kelvin's right-hand man. Their goal was to find Brian because he had cost them millions of dollars in the past. They demanded Oscar send a text message to Hector to bait out the location. Meanwhile, Brian had teamed up with Hector and his gang to rescue the kids. Suddenly, they received the text message from Oscar containing the secret building number he memorized. Brian plugged it into his GPS to pinpoint the exact location. The foolish Eric didn't notice the trick, thinking Oscar had just called Hector normally. But an unexpected disaster struck. A rival gang launched a massive raid on Valdez's mansion. Eric and his men were forced to defend the property. Valdez took advantage of the absolute chaos and executed Piero on the spot because he hated Kelvin and wanted to seize the illegal contraband trade all for himself. Right at that moment, Brian, Hector, and the rest of their gang breached the mansion. In the beginning of the battle, Brian and Hector fought side by side, wiping out a massive wave of criminals. Because pistols were useless against bulletproof vests, Brian handed Hector a highly powerful heavy rifle. Brian then grabbed a solid steel riot shield to deflect incoming bullets, ordering Hector to take cover inside the building and snipe anyone who dared to attack. Brian continued charging through the gunfire. Eric and Valdez were hit with absolute terror as Brian's squad obliterated most of their forces. Inside, Oscar exploited a guard's distraction and knocked him out cold with a lightning-fast strike. Eric arrived and immediately engaged Oscar in a fierce brawl. From the start of the fight, Oscar successfully disarmed Eric, attacking him aggressively and dominating the fight. The cowardly Eric tried to reach for his dropped gun, but Marisol stepped in and shot Eric right in the leg. Brian successfully breached all defensive perimeters. When he reached Oscar and Marisol, he found the traitor Eric wounded and tied up. Brian praised Oscar for his immense bravery. He grabbed Oscar and Marisol to escape, but Valdez suddenly blocked their way, pointing a destructive rocket launcher capable of vaporizing anything in its path. At the final split second, Hector emerged from his sniping position and perfectly shot Valdez dead. Brian smiled and thanked Hector for saving their lives. That night, the police arrived and began questioning Hector about the incident. Brian checked on Oscar and Marisol to make sure they were safe. Suddenly, a car pulled up from a distance, and Brian's wife stepped out. Brian could not believe his eyes, and the two shared a moment of pure, overwhelming happiness. A short time later, the criminal mastermind Kelvin was being escorted by prison guards to solitary confinement. Inside the dark cell, the guards stripped off their masks, revealing it was a setup by Brian. He had infiltrated the prison to personally avenge all of Kelvin's actions and teach him a lesson he would never forget. And that was the full recap of the movie. Make sure to subscribe to receive everything new, and I will see you all well, God willing.